She faked sleep. A billionaire pretended to sleep to test a poor single dad. The office lights burned bright on the 40th floor while the rest of the city slept, and Evelyn Cross sat perfectly still behind her mahogany desk, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and deliberate. She was not asleep. She was watching, through the thinnest sliver of her lashes, the only man left in the building who did not know he was being tested. What happened in the next 60 seconds would replay in her mind for the rest of her life, and it would make her cry, alone in her penthouse, until the sun came up. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that remind us what really matters, hit that like button, drop a comment below, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner so you never miss a story like this one. Marcus Reid had been cleaning offices on the 40th floor of Cross Tower for 8 months. Every night, after his daughter Maya fell asleep at his sister's apartment, he rode 2 buses across the city to push a cart of cleaning supplies through hallways lined with art worth more than his annual salary. He never complained. He never rushed past a task. He treated the marble floors of billionaires with the same care he gave his daughter's scraped knees, gently, thoroughly, like every small thing deserved his full attention. His wife had passed 3 years earlier, leaving him with a 4-year-old girl, a mountain of medical bills, and a resolve that no matter how hard life pressed down on him, he would raise Maya to be kind, because kindness was the one inheritance he could still afford to give her. That night, Marcus had brought Maya with him. His sister had a fever and couldn't watch her, and he had no one else to call. So he'd wrapped Maya in her favorite cardigan, tucked her teddy bear under her arm, and told her it was a special nighttime adventure, a quiet game of helping Daddy while everyone else in the tall glass building was asleep. Maya, 6 years old and endlessly trusting, held his hand through every hallway and never once complained, even as her eyelids grew heavy. When they reached the executive suite on the 40th floor, Marcus froze. He knew that office. Everyone in the building knew it. It belonged to Evelyn Cross, the CEO whose name appeared on magazine covers and whose reputation for ruthlessness in boardrooms was almost as famous as her wealth. And there she was, slumped over her desk, head resting on her hand, eyes closed, seemingly lost in an exhausted sleep after what had clearly been a brutal week of back-to-back meetings. Marcus's first instinct was to leave quietly. But the office was cold, the air conditioning had been running full force for hours, and he noticed her arms were bare, goosebumps rising on her skin even in sleep. He hesitated at the door, torn between respecting her privacy and a simple, human discomfort at the thought of anyone being cold and unprotected, even a woman worth more money than he could imagine in 10 lifetimes. He looked down at Maya, who was rubbing her eyes, and made a decision that had nothing to do with strategy or self-interest. He walked to the coat closet near the reception area, found a soft gray blanket kept there for late-night staff, and carried it into the office. Careful not to wake her, he draped it gently over her shoulders, tucking the edges in the way he tucked Maya into bed every night, making sure no cold air could sneak through. What Marcus did not know was that Evelyn had not been sleeping at all. She had been testing him. For 3 weeks, she had been secretly investigating claims from her head of security that expensive items kept disappearing from executive offices late at night, and the cleaning staff were the only ones with access. She had positioned herself as bait, vulnerable, seemingly unconscious, with her purse, her watch, and an unlocked drawer of cash sitting in plain sight on her desk, to see exactly who she was really employing. Under the dim lamplight, she had watched Marcus enter with his daughter, watched him notice her open purse and never so much as glance toward it, and watched him choose, instead, to protect a stranger from the cold. Evelyn felt something crack open in her chest that she hadn't expected. She had grown so accustomed to being surrounded by people who wanted something from her, investors, executives, even old friends who reappeared only when they needed favors, that she had almost forgotten decency could exist without an angle. She kept her eyes shut as Marcus turned to leave, but she opened them the moment the door clicked softly behind him, and she sat alone in the quiet office, staring at the blanket on her shoulders, feeling tears rise in her eyes for reasons she could not fully explain. She did not sleep that night. Instead, She pulled up Marcus Reid's employee file, and what she found nearly broke her heart. A widowed father working 2 jobs. A daughter with no mother. A man who had never once been late, never once filed a complaint, and who according to a small note from HR had once returned a diamond cufflink he'd found in a men's bathroom instead of quietly pocketing it. Evelyn thought about her own childhood, raised by a father who built his empire from nothing, who used to tell her that character is what a person does when no one is watching. She had spent years turning that lesson into boardroom strategy. She had forgotten it was meant to be about people. The next morning, Evelyn did something no one at Cross Tower had ever seen her do. She asked her assistant to personally invite Marcus Reid to her office, not to fire him, as rumors instantly began to swirl among the cleaning staff, but to sit across from her at the same desk where he had once covered her with a blanket. She told him what she had seen. She watched his face shift from confusion to disbelief to quiet embarrassment, as though kindness were something to apologize for. And then she told him she wanted to offer him a full scholarship fund for Maya's education, a management position in the company's new community outreach division, and enough support to finally give his daughter the stability he had been fighting for alone since his wife's passing. Marcus wept in that office, the same office he had crept through so carefully the night before, and for the first time in 3 years, he let himself believe that the universe still kept promises. Evelyn later admitted that watching him cry was what finally broke her composure too, and that she spent that entire night afterward crying in her penthouse, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming, humbling reminder that goodness still existed in a world she had begun to believe was only made of transactions. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness is never wasted, even when no one is watching. And before we go, I want to ask you something special. Comment the word blanket below if you believe small acts of kindness can change someone's entire life, because Marcus never asked for a reward, and that is exactly why he deserved one. Evelyn Cross went on to say that Marcus Reid taught her more about leadership in one silent gesture than any business school ever had, and that the real test she had designed that night was never about catching a thief at all. It was about finding, in the coldest hours of a lonely office, the one person still warm enough on the inside to notice someone else was cold.